Hi, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel. My name is Mark and I tinker with bikes, and occasionally get to ride them too. So we all know the state of the bike market at the moment. Trash prices and companies collapsing. It's hard out there. After years of bike tinkering, I've accumulated quite a few spares and I really want to clear out some stock. So I'm going to try and build a few cheap bikes. My goal is simple. Clear out my cupboards and build some bikes that are just as cheap as Halford's bikes, but are actually built to last. Unfortunately, I don't really have any spare frames, so in my quest to build these cheap bikes, I've been looking for bargain frames. Ideally, a frame with a headset, fork and seat posts. That's where this bike comes in. After parting with 20 quid, I had this in my hands, or strapped to my back. It's a 1996 Raleigh Team Edition, and no, it isn't an M-Trax. It's basically just one of the low-end steel frames they did, painted to look like an M-Trax. It's heavy, but it's solid. And yes, I did get some weird looks riding through town with this on my back. Before doing anything with the bike, I wanted to give it a once-over. For me, that means checking the bottom bracket by cleaning it out and chasing the threads to make sure a new bottom bracket will thread in cleaning, aligning the rear dropouts and checking the rear derailleur hanger to make sure I don't have any problems with the shifting, cleaning out the seat tube to remove any corrosion, and finally checking the frame is straight. This frame turned out to be a good one. The derailleur hanger and dropouts needed a slight adjustment, but everything else was great. You won't see me clean the frame down on camera, but yes, I do also give the frame and fork a quick clean too. I'm coming to the end of the intro track now, so I'm going to let the video do the talking. Occasionally chiming in with some context when needed. Enjoy the video. $120, hanger's bent I reckon. Oh no, that's pretty straight. 120. 125. Okay, first bit of context here with the headset. This was the original headset supplied with the original fork, or at least I think it is. I found the crown race was a bit loose, so a fix for that can sometimes be to use a hammer and a punch to create ridges in the metal. I've never tried it before, but this time it seems to have worked. The upper bearing race was also a bit too bent and worn, so I went with loose bearings instead. I'm happy to report it seems to be working nicely. Hopefully this works. just. This bike uses a 1 1/8 inch headset and a quill stem. It had the bars, stem and a saddle left over from the GT Avalanche and a stem adapter in my boxes of spares, so throwing them all together gave me this combo. The shorter stem and wider bars should give it a more stable base and be a bit more relaxed for a commuter. A lot of the other parts I'm using for this bike came from the Cheap Bike Challenge build, which I didn't do a video on. The brakes, wheels, shifter and rear derailleur all came off that bike. We all know that canties are king, but for this bike the V's will work a bit better and be a bit more appealing. I'm still keeping the 3x7 though.
Yeah, that should be right there.
Sweet.
Seven speed.
Now, this is something I've come across before, and I thought it might be an issue. The crankset I'm using is an old Shimano X-Age, I think. It's a nice late 80s, early 90s, 110p CD triple, but none of the chainrings are original.
Wow.
The outer chainring is a 48 tooth, which was typical of that time, but the middle is a 36 tooth. Usually the middle is 10 less than the outer, and sometimes if the difference is greater than 10, it can cause problems. The front derailleur doesn't have enough capacity to pick up the chain and shift it onto the outer ring in this case. I was prepared for this though, so I'd already found a 46 tooth outer ring and a matching derailleur.
Oh, it needs to be adjusted. Much better. It doesn't quite. Oh no, it does. It does make it on.
Someone usually asks, so to answer your question, this is hairspray. I'm using hairspray to mount the grips. And before you leave a comment about how dirty they are, I end up changing my mind later in the video.
How am I going to do this now? Okay. Grab this one. Oh, I might need a little spacer in there. Okay. So, it should. Let's change the derailleur. That's good. Okay, limit see through you just did, but at least it goes onto that ring now. There we go.
Salted. Okay.
theory. Yeah, front cage is going to be all ribbon. It's almost there. And one. Yeah, sounds. You can trim it. Nice. So the pin's not closed. Okay. In theory, that's pin's closed. I'm going to spin, but if I wind the barrel adjuster back in, yep, just there. Better. Katt älskar dricker mjölk. Is that right?
And with that, the bike is done. It's a nice, simple 3x7 build. Skinny tyres and wide bars. A cheap and cheerful commuter. The perfect pub bike. I haven't listed it for sale just yet, but you'll probably find it on eBay soon. Maybe. You know what the fees are like there. Wavy has signed off the bike, so it's ready to move on, and I can gather the next batch of spares ready for the next parts bin build. I don't know what it is just yet, but I'm sure you'll find something. I hope you enjoyed the video. Until the next one, ride safe and subscribe for more. were meant to lie there. you were meant to lie there. All the